Hawke's Bay will be starting early next year.
Question number 8, Julianne Genter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, does he stand by his statement that, quote, there is no suggestion of the government borrowing billions of dollars for motorways?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, yes, I stand by my full statement, which was there is no suggestion of the government borrowing millions of dollars for motorways. The motorway investment is largely funded from the dedicated road user charges and excise tax that go into the road user fund. Between 2009 and 12, the National Land Transport Fund spent around $4.8 billion on state highways and around $1.9 billion for its share of spending on local roads. Over the same period, fuel excise duties and road user charges raised around $7.5 billion.
Thank you.
Julianne Genter.
Supplementary to the Minister. How does he reconcile that answer with this letter addressed to the Minister of Finance from the New Zealand Transport Agency dated October 2nd, 2012, which states that the planned public-private partnership will, quote, allow the NZTA to borrow, that is, enter into a long-term repayment obligation for the Transmission Gully project, unquote.
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that is the nature of the PPP financing method, but all the cost of that financing comes from the Land Transport Fund funded by the users of the roads through road user charges. We don't go to the bond market to raise that money, but we do account for it as if it is full debt, as if it is debt of the government.
Julianne Genter.
Supplementary to the Minister. What is the total projected cost of the loan that the government will be taking out for the Transmission Gully PPP?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr. Speaker, I don't have that detail here.
Julianne Genter.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Julianne Genter.
I'd like to table this calculation done by the Parliamentary Library that shows that the payments would total $3 billion over the life of the PPP.
Leave us sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Julianne Genter, supplementary question.
Why is his government planning to borrow $3 billion for Transmission Gully when New Zealand Transport Agency's own reports show the project will increase congestion south of Lyndon through to Wellington Central and return only $360 to $500 million worth of benefit?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think that we could argue about what the $3 billion figure she's quoting means. In fact, the cost of that project is considerably less than that. It probably includes all the road user charges and petrol excise tax, which would be used to pay for the project over the life of the project. But the reason the government's interested in proceeding with that project is because of its benefit to the region, because it does deal with a particular vulnerability of Wellington, that is having only one coastal route north of the city, and it's part of a well-signalled corridor of development stretching from Levin to the airport.
Julianne Genter.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
I seek leave to table this Ministry of Transport report from 2008 released under the OIA, which shows that the project will increase congestion and will deliver a benefit-cost ratio of 0.36 to 0.5.
Leave us sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is no objection. Supplementary question, Julianne Genter.
What is his response to Professor John Goldberg, who has undertaken an analysis of public-private roading partnerships in Australia, who says, quote, the public-private partnership concept has failed in Australia and should serve as a warning to superannuation funds of the high risk of investment in road infrastructure?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that may be, the Professor may be right, pointing out that some Australian projects have failed. The lesson there is those risks were carried by the shareholders in the large companies, in the large companies who operated those roads, and the failures did not fall on the taxpayer, and that is one of the reasons that PPPs are attractive to governments.
Question number.
Supplementary question.
I beg your pardon. Supplementary question, Julianne Genter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary question to the Minister. Isn't it the case that the availability payment model that NZTA is looking at for the Transmission Gully public-private partnership actually transfers the demand risk to the government? Because they wouldn't be able to get private investors to invest in such a poor project, and thus won't it be future taxpayers who are carrying the risk of this $3 billion loan well into the future?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the government carries so-called demand risk on every road in New Zealand at the moment because we haven't transferred that demand risk to anyone else in any example that I can recall right now. And actually I thought the Greens would be pleased about those projects failing, because if they failed it was because less cars showed up, and given that the Greens, Labor opposition are opposed to cars, they should think that's a good thing.
Point of order, Julianne Genter.
I seek leave to table traffic volumes from the Wellington region, which show that traffic volumes haven't been growing as expected, and therefore the
What was
benefits...
the source of the document?
The New Zealand Transport Agency road monitoring.
Leave is sought to table that document. Is there any objection? There is objection. Question number 9, the Honourable Tariana Turia.
Mr. Speaker,